Kate Bennett pressed her shattered arm against her ribs and bit down on a scream that would have ended everything. Blood seeped through the white sleeve of her uniform. Behind that storage room door, 300 of the most dangerous people in America were drinking champagne. And the man walking toward her right now, the one whose footsteps she recognized in her bones, was Damon Blackwell, the mafia heir who had just smelled her blood from across the ballroom. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and stay with this story until the very end. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story has traveled tonight. Now let's begin. Kate Bennett had survived 26 years on this earth by being invisible. She had perfected it the way other women perfected their makeup or their laugh. Stand in the corner, speak only when spoken to, smile when the wealthy people tell their unfunny jokes. Refill the champagne flute before the rich woman notices it's empty. Disappear before anyone remembers your name. Tonight, that survival skill was the only thing keeping her alive. She pressed her back against the cold metal shelving in the third-floor storage room of the Blackwell estate, and she stopped breathing. Just stopped. Because if she breathed, she would whimper, and if she whimpered, someone would hear, and if someone heard, she would lose everything. Her right arm was broken. She knew it was broken because she had heard it snap, a sound like a dry branch under a boot heel. The pain had come 3 seconds later, slow and sickening, climbing up her shoulder and into her teeth. She had bitten the inside of her cheek so hard she tasted copper. She was still tasting it now. Down the hallway somewhere far below her, on the grand marble stairways, 300 guests were laughing. A string quartet was playing Vivaldi, a senator was telling a joke about his golf game, and Kate Bennett was standing in the dark with a broken arm, trying to remember how to fold it into her sleeve so no one would see. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She nearly dropped it, pulling it out with her left hand. The screen lit up her face. Kate let out a breath that was almost a laugh. Almost. Her mother. Her mother, who was lying in a bed at St. Vincent's right now with a feeding tube and a stack of unpaid bills the size of a phone book. Her mother, whose insurance had run out in March. Her mother, who didn't know that Kate had taken this job, the highest paying event coordinator gig in the city, specifically because the man who owned this house, the man whose name was whispered, the way other people whisper about cancer, paid better than anyone alive. She let the call go to the voicemail. She couldn't talk. She couldn't let her mother hear her voice right now, not like this. Instead, she typed with one shaking thumb. At work, Mom. Call you at midnight. Love you. She slid the phone back into her apron. She closed her eyes. Don't cry. Don't you dare cry. She had to get back down to the ballroom. The shrimp tower needed replenishing at 9:45. The bar staff needed her sign-off on the second wave of champagne. Mrs. Blackwell Damon's grandmother, the iron-spined matriarch who actually ran the household, would notice if Kate disappeared for more than 15 minutes. She had been gone for 9. She just needed to fix her sleeve. That was all. She just needed to slide the broken arm back into the cuff of her uniform and button it and walk down the stairs and smile and pretend that Preston Caldwell, Senator Caldwell's only son, 28 years old, 6 feet 2, 210 pounds, had not just dragged her into the second-floor library and put his hand around her throat and said, she squeezed her eyes shut harder. She wasn't going to think about it. Not now. Not here. She lifted her broken arm with her good one slowly, and she felt the bone shift inside her sleeve, and a low animal sound came out of her throat before she could stop it. That was when the door opened. She didn't see him at first. She just heard the latch click and then the soft, controlled sound of a man's dress shoe on the polished floor. One step, then nothing. Whoever it was, he was standing in the doorway looking at her, and he wasn't moving, and he wasn't speaking. Kate kept her face turned to the wall. Her good hand gripped the edge of the metal shelf. I'll be right out, she said, and she was proud of how steady it sounded. I just needed a moment. I'm sorry, sir. I'll be right out. The door closed, but he hadn't left. He had stepped inside. She heard him lock it behind him. Her stomach turned to water. Kate, she knew that voice. Of course she knew that voice. Every woman who had ever worked in this house knew that voice. It was the voice that had told a Russian arms dealer last Christmas to leave the property and never return. It was the voice that, according to the housekeeper Marisol, had once made a grown man wet himself in the front parlor. It was Damon Blackwell. Mr. Blackwell? She still didn't turn around. I, I'm so sorry. I needed water. The kitchen was crowded. I'll be back downstairs in 1 minute, I promise. Silence. Then very quietly, turn around. She didn't move. Kate, his voice had not gone louder. If anything, it had gone softer. Turn around, please. That word, please, coming from Damon Blackwell, was something she had never heard in the 11 months she had worked for this family. He didn't say please. He said things and they happened. That was how the world worked around him. She turned around. She kept her broken arm hidden behind her hip. She lifted her chin. She tried to smile. The smile didn't work. Damon Blackwell stood 6 feet 4 inches in his hand-tailored black tuxedo, and he was looking at her the way a man looks at a fire he is calculating whether to put out or feed. He was 34 years old, black hair gray at the temples, earlier than it should have been, a face that had been described by a magazine once as severely beautiful, which Kate had thought at the time was a stupid phrase, in which she now understood entirely. He had the kind of stillness that made other men in the room go quiet without knowing why. His eyes went to her sleeve. There was a small, dark stain on the white cuff. Kate hadn't noticed it. She had been so focused on the pain that she hadn't checked for blood. Kate, it's nothing, she said. The words came out too fast. I caught my arm on a door frame in the kitchen. I was carrying a tray and I was clumsy. I'm fine. I just need a minute and then I'll be. Show me your arm. Mr. Blackwell, show me your arm, Kate. She stared at the floor. The marble was very white. The polish was very perfect. She could see her own reflection in it, blurry and small. Please, she whispered, please don't make me. I can't lose this job. Mr. Blackwell, please. Your mother is at St. Vincent's, he said it flatly. Stage 3. The bills came to $71,000 last month. Your father left when you were 9. Your sister lives in Tucson and hasn't called in 2 years. You have $1,100 in your checking account and a car that needs a transmission. She looked up. He was watching her with no expression at all. Her voice cracked. How do you know that? I know that about everyone who works in my house. He took 1 step closer. Show me your arm. She didn't move. He waited. He waited the way a man waits who has all the time in the world and none of the patience. Finally, with her good hand, Kate pulled her broken arm out from behind her hip and held it up. The sleeve had darkened more than she'd realized. The fabric was sticking to her skin. She didn't look at his face. She couldn't. There was a sound from him. A breath, not loud, just one breath drawn in and held. Roll up the sleeve, he said. Mr. Blackwell, roll it up or I will call my doctor up here and we will do this in front of him. Your choice. She rolled it up. The skin underneath was already turning purple. Her wrist was at an angle that wrists are not supposed to be at. There were fingerprint bruises around her bicep, 4 of them, dark and exact, the size of a man's hand. There was a longer mark on her forearm where she had been thrown into something. Her elbow looked wrong. Damon Blackwell did not move. He did not speak. He looked at her arm for what felt like an entire minute. When he finally raised his eyes back to her face, Kate felt her knees go weak. Not because he looked angry, because he looked calm. She had been around dangerous men before. Her father had been one. She had learned the difference between a man who was angry and a man who was about to do something. Angry men yell. Angry men slam doors and curse and break glasses. Dangerous men go quiet. Dangerous men smile a small smile and ask polite questions, and somewhere in the city, a few hours later, something terrible happens that the news cannot explain. Damon Blackwell had gone very, very quiet. Who? He said. Mr. Blackwell, please, Kate. I just want to keep my job, please. Please, I'm begging you. I'll wrap it. I'll be careful. No one has to know. I just need this job. I just need... Kate, look at me. She looked at him. She was crying now and she hated herself for it. The tears were running down her face and she couldn't lift her hand to wipe them because one arm was broken and the other was shaking too badly. I am not going to fire you, he said quietly. You will keep your job. Your mother's bills will be paid. Tonight. Before you walk out of this room, I will have already wired the hospital. Do you hear me? She nodded. She didn't believe him. She nodded anyway. Now I need you to tell me who did this. I can't. Why? Because, she closed her eyes. Because his father is downstairs. Because his last name is on a building 2 miles from here. Because if I say his name out loud, I'm done. My family is done. I'll never work in this city again. I won't even be able to file a police report because his uncle is on the parole board and his cousin is a federal judge. And my word against his. She stopped. She was babbling. Kate. He had moved closer. He was 3 feet away from her now. Look at me. Look at my face. She looked. Do you understand who I am? It was not a question. She nodded. Then say his name. She swallowed. Her mouth was dry. Preston, she whispered. Preston Caldwell. She watched it land on him. There was no flinch, no widening of the eyes, no twitch of the jaw. Damon Blackwell received the name the way the ocean receives a stone. It went in, it disappeared. The surface stayed flat. But she saw something behind his eyes shift the way a wolf's eyes shift when it sees movement in the trees. Was he alone? No. How many? I don't know. I didn't see all of them. I think there were 3 in the library, but I heard them before. In the hallway, laughing. Someone said he could have me first because he saw me first. I think there were more. Maybe 4 others outside. I don't know. I'm sorry. I should have counted. I should have... Stop. He held up one hand. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. Look at me. Did you hear me? She nodded. Say it. I didn't do anything wrong. Again. I didn't do anything wrong. Good. He was already pulling his phone out of his inner jacket pocket. Sit down, Kate. On that crate. Sit. She sat. Her legs gave out as soon as she tried, and she half fell onto the wooden crate behind her. Her broken arms screamed. She bit her cheek again. He held the phone to his ear. He turned slightly away from her. When he spoke, it was in a voice she had never heard him use before. Not the polite voice he used for senators. Not the cold voice he used for business calls. This voice was quieter, older. It sounded like a voice that had given orders before in places where the orders had never been written down. It's me, he said. I need you upstairs. 3rd floor, East Storage. Bring Mateo. Bring the doctor. Yes, the doctor. Now. He paused. And Tomas, listen to me carefully. I want every camera in this house pulled for the last 4 hours. Every one. I want guest logs. I want vehicle plates. I want the names of every man Preston Caldwell walked in with tonight. Every man he spoke to. Every man who laughed at his jokes. I want them by the time the sun comes up. Pause. No, not the police. Us. He hung up. He turned back to her. She was staring at him. She knew distantly that her mouth was open. She knew distantly that she should be afraid. Some part of her brain was screaming that she had just handed 7 names, or however many it would turn out to be, to a man whose family had built half its fortune on the disappearance of inconvenient people. But she couldn't make herself feel afraid. She felt something else, something she didn't have a word for. Mr. Blackwell, she said. Damon? What? My name is Damon. I would like you to use it. He crouched in front of her so his face was level with hers. He did not touch her. He kept his hands on his own knees as if he understood, without being told, that she could not bear another man's hand on her tonight. Kate, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Okay. Damon's voice did something then. It almost broke. He recovered it before the next word. Did he do anything else to you? Anything other than your arm? She knew what he was asking. No, she said. No, I got away. When my arm broke, I think it surprised him. He let go. I locked myself in here. She watched him close his eyes, just for 1 second, just for one breath. And in that 1 second, she saw something on his face that no one, no senator, no rival boss, no journalist, no enemy had ever seen on the face of Damon Blackwell. Relief. Then it was gone, and he was the stone wall again. Good, he said. Good, Kate. You did good. You ran. That was the right thing. You did everything right tonight. I broke my arm. He broke your arm. His voice was very flat. There is a difference. Say it back to me. He broke my arm. Yes. There was a soft knock at the door. 3 taps, a pause, 2 taps. Damon stood up. He crossed the room and unlocked the door. 3 men came in. One was older, in his 60s, carrying a leather doctor's bag. One was a man Kate had seen before but never spoken to, broad-shouldered, scarred along the jaw. The third was younger, maybe Damon's age, with the quiet eyes of a man who watched doors for a living. The older man went straight to Kate. He did not introduce himself. He just knelt and said, "May I, Miss Mossican?" And when she nodded, he began to examine her arm with the gentlest hand she had ever felt. The other two men stood with Damon by the door. Damon was speaking to them in a low voice. Kate caught only fragments. "Caldwell Preston and at least 4. The senator stays. He doesn't get to lose his son and his career on the same night. That's a complication we don't blame. By sunrise, all of them. I don't care where they are. I don't care if they're at home in bed next to their wives. By sunrise. The girl gets nothing on her. Nothing. She was here. She was working. She knows nothing. Her mother. Tonight. Wire it tonight, every cent owed, plus the next year prepaid. Anonymous donor." The doctor was bandaging her arm now. He had given her something, a pill with water from a small bottle, and the pain was beginning to dull around the edges. She watched Damon Blackwell across the room, and she felt the world she had known her entire life, the world where men like Preston Caldwell could put their hands on a woman like her and walk away laughing. She felt that world quietly, completely, and forever end. And in its place, a new world was beginning, a world she did not yet understand, a world with rules she did not yet know, a world in which she, Kate Bennett, the invisible girl, the one who had survived 26 years on this earth by being unseen, was suddenly terrifyingly the most seen woman in the room. Damon turned. He looked at her. He held her eyes. "Kate," he said, "I'm going to ask you one more thing tonight, and then I will not bother you again until you have slept." "Okay. Do you trust me?" She thought about it. She thought about her mother in the hospital bed. She thought about Preston Caldwell's hand on her throat. She thought about the $1,100 in her checking account. She thought about the look on Damon's face when she had said no, he didn't do anything else. "Yes," she said, "God help me. I do." He nodded once. He turned to the man with the scarred jaw. "Mateo," he said, "get the cars." Downstairs, the string quartet was beginning the second movement. The senator was telling another joke. The champagne was flowing. 300 of the most powerful people in America were laughing at things that weren't funny. And in the third-floor storage room in a house older than the country it stood in, a man named Damon Blackwell was placing a phone call that would, before sunrise, cause 15 men to disappear from the face of the earth. Kate Bennett didn't know the number was going to be 15. She didn't know it was going to be by morning. She only knew that for the first time in her entire life, she was not alone. And somewhere deep in a part of her, she had buried so long ago she'd forgotten it existed. A small voice said, "Good." Mateo did not say a word. He simply nodded, once turned, and walked out of the storage room with the quiet efficiency of a man who had been waiting his entire life for this exact phone call. The door clicked shut behind him, and in the silence that followed, Kate Bennett understood, in a way she had not understood 10 minutes ago, that something had just been set in motion that could not be stopped. The doctor was still working on her arm. He had cut her sleeve open with a small pair of surgical scissors. He was murmuring things to her. "This might pinch, miss. Deep breath. Now, miss, you're doing wonderfully." And Kate was nodding along like a child, but she wasn't really hearing him. She was watching Damon. Damon had walked to the far wall of the storage room. He had his phone to his ear again. He was speaking even more quietly than before, and Kate caught only the cadence of it, not the words. But she could read the rhythm. Short sentences, pauses, a small nod, another short sentence. He was the kind of man who said exactly as much as a thing required and not one word more. He hung up. He slid the phone back into his jacket. He turned around. "Dr. Reyes," he said, "how is she?" "The arm needs a proper set, Mr. Blackwell. I can stabilize her here, but she needs an x-ray and a nap tonight, ideally." "Can she walk?" "She can walk. She shouldn't drive." "She won't be driving. She won't be walking out of the front door either." Damon looked at Kate. "Kate, listen to me. There are 300 guests downstairs. If you walk out of this house with a sling on your arm tonight, half the people in this city will know what happened by breakfast. Some of them will be on Caldwell's side. Some of them will not. We are going to take you out the service entrance. You are going to ride in the second car. Dr. Reyes will go with you. You'll be at a private clinic in 20 minutes. You will be home in your own bed by sunrise. Do you understand what I'm telling you?" She nodded. Her throat had gone too dry to speak. Good. I need you to do one more thing for me before you leave. Anything. He paused at that, just for a fraction of a second. She saw something flicker across his face that she could not name. I need you to write down every detail you remember, he said. Every word he said, every word the others said, where his hands were, what he was wearing, what time it was when you left the kitchen, and what time it was when you ran. I don't need it pretty. I don't need it complete. I need everything that's in your head while it's still there. The pill the doctor gave you is going to make you sleepy in about 20 minutes. Write fast. Why, she said. Her voice was a thread. Because tonight you are not a witness, Kate. Tonight you are a record. Tomorrow you will not remember half of what you saw, and I need to know it before you forget. She nodded again. Dr. Reyes was already pulling a small leather notebook from his bag and a fountain pen, and he was opening it across her lap because her right hand was useless. I'll write, the doctor said. You talk. So she talked. She talked the way a person talks when she has been holding her breath for 9 hours and someone has finally given her permission to exhale. The words came out fast at first, then slower, then in rough, wet pieces. The library, the smell of his cologne, the way Preston Caldwell had laughed when she'd said, please don't. The other voice in the hallway, the one she didn't recognize, the one that had said, take your time, Prez, we'll keep watch. The hand on her throat. The wall against her shoulder blades. The moment she had brought her knee up the way her mother had taught her when she was 12. The crack of her arm against the corner of the desk when he'd thrown her down. The sound of her own voice somewhere far away telling her to get up, get up, get up. She talked until her voice gave out. Damon did not interrupt her once. When she was done, the doctor closed the notebook and slipped it inside his jacket. Damon crossed the room and crouched in front of her again, the way he had before. He still did not touch her. You did well, he said. You did very well. It's done now. You are not going to think about it again tonight. Do you understand me? I'll try. Good. He stood. He looked at the third man, the younger one, with the door watcher's eyes. Joaquin, take her down through the kitchen. Out the south entrance. Car 2, don't let anyone see her face. If anyone stops you, you tell them she's a caterer who got sick. Nothing more. Yes, sir. And Joaquin. Damon's voice dropped half a register. If anyone tries to stop you, anyone at all, and they don't take, she got sick for an answer the first time, you bring her back up here. You do not engage. You do not improvise. Bring her back up. Are we clear? Crystal, sir. Joaquin offered Kate his arm. Not his hand. His arm. Bent at the elbow like an usher at a wedding. She understood with a small sting behind her eyes that he had done this before. He knew not to grab. He knew not to startle her. He knew exactly how to move a hurt woman through a crowd. She took his arm with her good hand. She looked back just once at Damon Blackwell. He was already on his phone again. He was looking down at the floor. He looked for one strange second like a man who had aged 10 years in 20 minutes. Then he raised his eyes and saw her looking. He held her eyes. He did not smile. He did not nod. He simply looked at her in the way a man looks at something he has decided in that exact moment will be the most important thing in his life from now on. Then she was through the door. The hallway was empty. Joaquin moved her along it, the way you move a glass of water. You do not want to spill fast, but steady his body angle between her and any door that might open. They went down the back stairs. They went through the laundry corridor. They passed 2 maids who lowered their eyes the second they saw Joaquin's face. He nodded at them. They kept walking. The kitchen was a war zone of caterers, but no one looked up. No one looked at Kate's arm. No one looked at Kate's face. Joaquin was a black tuxedoed shadow with a small woman on his arm, and the staff of the Blackwell estate had been trained for 3 generations not to ask questions about the things they saw on event nights. He took her out the south service door. There was a black SUV waiting engine already running. The passenger door opened from the inside. Dr. Reyes was already in the back seat with his bag. Joaquin handed her up into the car the way a groomsman hands a bride up into a carriage. Miss Bennett, he said. Yes. Mr. Blackwell will see you in the morning. Try to sleep on the way. The doctor will take care of you. You are safe now. She nodded. She could not speak. The pill was beginning to work. The pain in her arm had retreated to somewhere far away in another room behind a closed door. Her eyelids were heavy. The door shut. The SUV pulled away from the south entrance of the Blackwell estate at exactly 9:58 on a Saturday night in October. It was the last time, although she did not know it yet, that Kate Bennett would ever live in the world she had been born into. Inside the house on the ballroom floor, the gala was reaching its peak. Senator Howard Caldwell, 62 years old, three-term incumbent, presumptive presidential candidate for the next election, was holding a glass of bourbon and laughing too loudly at something the governor had said. He had not seen his son Preston in approximately 40 minutes, but this was not unusual. Preston was 28, and Preston was the senator privately thought an embarrassment most weekends. Preston had probably wandered off with someone. He'd circle back. Senator Caldwell took a long pull of his bourbon and continued laughing. Across the ballroom near the staircase, Damon Blackwell stepped back into the party. He had changed his pocket square. The old one had a small spot of blood on it that no one but him would have noticed. He had wiped his hands. He had checked his watch. He had taken a single deep breath in the hallway and let it out. And then he had walked down the grand staircase with the same easy half smile he used at every event his grandmother forced him to attend. He found his grandmother first, Eleanor Blackwell, 81 years old, in a black silk gown that had cost more than most people's cars. She was holding court near the orchid arrangement. "Diamond," she said, "where on earth have you been?" "Phone call, Hong Kong." "At this hour?" "They keep their own hours, grandmother. You know that." She studied him with the eyes that had outlived 2 husbands and 3 federal investigations. "You look strange. Are you well?" "I'm well." "Damon." "Grandmother, I'm well. I'd like to introduce you to Senator Caldwell's wife if you haven't met her. I think you'd find her interesting." He was the only person on earth who could get Eleanor Blackwell to drop a question by changing the subject. She let it go. She let him steer her toward the senator's wife. He kissed her cheek. He turned away. He found Senator Caldwell 2 minutes later. "Senator, Damon, hell of a party, hell of a party. My grandmother sends her regards. She wanted me to ask you something." "Anything for Eleanor, anything at all." "She wanted to know," Damon said, his voice friendly, his eyes flat, "whether your son was enjoying himself tonight. She hasn't seen him in some time. She was worried he might have left without saying goodbye." The senator blinked. Then he laughed. "Preston, oh, Preston's around here somewhere. You know how he is, probably charming some young lady on the terrace." "I'm sure he is. I'll introduce you when I find him. He admires you, you know. Says you're the future of this city." "Does he?" "Says it all the time." "How kind of him." Damon smiled. The senator did not see what was behind the smile. If he had, he would not have finished his bourbon. He would not have gone home that night. He would have gotten on a plane to a country with no extradition treaty, and he would have stayed there until the end of his life. But he did not see it. So he did finish his bourbon, and he did go home that night, and he did sleep beside his wife, and he did dream of his presidential campaign, and he did not know, not yet, that his only son had already been picked up in the parking lot of a Cuban restaurant in Bay Ridge 8 minutes ago by 2 men in a black sedan who had asked him very politely to step inside the car. The gala wound down at 1 in the morning. The valets brought the cars. The string quartet packed up its instruments. Eleanor Blackwell kissed her grandson on both cheeks and told him he had been a perfect host. "Darling, simply perfect. Your father would be proud." He had not flinched. He had walked her to her car and closed the door behind her himself. Then he had gone to his study. He had sat down at the desk that had belonged to his father and his grandfather and his great-grandfather, 3 generations of men who had built and bled for a name. He had opened the leather notebook that Dr. Reyes had handed him in the foyer on his way out. He had read what was inside, slowly page by page, in Kate Bennett's shaking handwriting and the doctor's neater script. He had read it twice. When he was done, he closed the notebook. He placed both hands flat on the desk. He sat there perfectly still for a long time. At some point, he picked up the phone. "Mateo?" "Sir." "Where are we?" 6 confirmed, 2 more in transit. We have a lead on 4 others. They were in the upstairs bar at the plaza 20 minutes ago. We're moving on them now. There's a 3rd group, 3 men, country club out in Westchester. I have a team on the road. In Preston. In the basement, sir. Awake. Cooperative. Cooperative how? He is currently informing us in great detail of every other woman he has done this to. There have been a number, sir. There was a pause. How many? He's up to 9, sir. We don't think he's done. Damon closed his eyes. Get every name. Every name, Mateo. I want to know who they are. I want to know if they're alive. I want to know if any of them tried to come forward. I want to know what happened to them when they did. Yes, sir. And Mateo. Sir, he doesn't get to be quick. Not him. Not after 9. Understood, sir. The others can be quick. I'm not a sadist. The others were stupid and cruel and they'll go in the river and that's the end of them. But Preston Caldwell is going to spend the next few hours of his life understanding in detail what he has done. And then he is going to write 9 letters of confession in his own handwriting to 9 families. And then he is going to disappear in a way that his father will never ever find a body to bury. Are we clear? Crystal, sir. And Mateo. Sir, none of this touches the girl. Not now, not in 5 years, not in 50. Kate Bennett does not exist in any of this. She was a coordinator at a party. She got food poisoning. She went home early. That is the entire story she knows. That is the entire story anyone will ever know. Are we clear? Yes, sir. Good. He hung up. He sat at the desk for another long minute. Then very slowly he reached up and loosened his black bow tie. He pulled it off. He laid it on the desk beside the notebook. He realized his hands were shaking. This surprised him. His hands had not shaken since he was 19 years old in a basement in Naples, the first and last time anyone had ever needed to teach him a lesson he did not already know. He looked at his own hands as if they belonged to someone else. He flexed them. He made fists. He let them go. He was thinking, of course, of Kate Bennett's face when she had said, "Please don't make me. I can't lose this job." He was thinking of how small she had looked, sitting on that crate. He was thinking of the bruises around her bicep, 4 of them a man's hand. He was thinking of the way she had said his name, Damon, for the first time, like she was tasting a word in a language she didn't speak. He was thinking, although he would not have admitted it to anyone alive, that something had happened to him in that storage room that he did not know how to undo. Across town in a small apartment over a Vietnamese grocery, Kate Bennett was already asleep. Dr. Reyes had set her arm. He had given her a stronger pill. He had walked her up the 3 flights of stairs and waited while she drank a glass of water and lay down on top of her own bed in her own clothes. And when her breathing had gone slow and even, he had locked the door behind him and stationed a man named Renzo in the hallway with a chair and a thermos of coffee. Kate did not know about Renzo. Kate did not know about Mateo or the basement or the 9 other women or the 3 men driving out to a country club in Westchester at 1 in the morning. Kate was dreaming. She was dreaming that she was 11 years old and her mother was brushing her hair. Her mother was telling her in that voice that Kate had not heard in a long time, that she was a good girl and a brave girl, and that the world was going to be kinder to her than it had been to her mother. You'll see, baby. You'll see. You'll have a man who loves you so hard the world will leave you alone. That's all I want for you. That's all. In her sleep, Kate smiled. In a basement in another part of the city, Preston Caldwell was crying. In a black sedan on a quiet road in Westchester, 3 men were stepping out of a car they had been told was their ride home. In the study of the Blackwell estate, Damon sat with both hands flat on his father's desk. His phone vibrated. He looked at it. He read the message. 8 more. He set the phone down. The first pale gray light of morning was beginning to climb the edge of the eastern window. Damon Blackwell did not look at it. He was staring at a spot on the desk where 23 years ago, his father had once put down a folded napkin with a name written on it and said, "You'll meet a woman someday, Damon, who is going to make you forget every rule I taught you. When you do, you remember this: every rule I taught you was to keep her alive." He had been 11 years old. He had not understood. He understood now. He picked up the phone. He dialed. Mateo. Sir, send a car to her apartment at noon. I want her at the house by 12:30, the East Garden, T. Tell her she can say no. Tell her she can say no to anything I ever ask her for the rest of her life. Yes, sir. And Mateo. Sir, it's done. There was a small pause on the other end of the line. It's done, sir, all 15. Damon Blackwell closed his eyes. He hung up the phone. Outside, the sun was coming up. Kate Bennett woke at 11:17 on a Sunday morning to the smell of fresh coffee and the sound of her own front door being unlocked from the outside. She sat up too fast. Her broken arm, now in a proper cast, sent a dull warning up through her shoulder. The pill from the night before had left her mouth dry and her head heavy. She blinked at the ceiling. She was in her own bed. She was in her own clothes. The blanket she did not remember pulling up was pulled up to her chest. Then her brain caught up and she remembered everything at once. She remembered Preston's hand on her throat. She remembered the snap of her arm. She remembered Damon Blackwell's face going still in the storage room. She remembered the words she had heard him say into a phone by sunrise, all of them. She remembered the number she had not been told. 15. She did not know yet that the number was 15. But somewhere deep under her ribs, she already knew the number was not small. The front door opened. Kate froze. A woman's voice, gentle and unhurried, called from the front hall. "Miss Bennett, it's Marisol. I work at the Blackwell house. Mr. Blackwell sent me. I'm not going to come in until you say it's all right." Kate pressed her good hand to her chest. Her heart was trying to climb out of it. "Marisol." "Yes, miss, from the kitchen. You've seen me 100 times. She had. Marisol, the head housekeeper, 50-something gray streaks at her temples. The only person in that entire estate who had ever looked Kate in the eye and asked her how she was actually doing. Kate let out a long breath. "Come in, please." Marisol walked into the bedroom carrying a paper bag from the corner bakery and a small suitcase on wheels. She set the bag down on the nightstand. She set the suitcase by the closet. She did not look at Kate's cast. She did not look at Kate's face for too long. She moved with the careful kindness of someone who had walked into too many rooms like this in her life. "I brought you breakfast, miss, and some clothes that should fit. Mr. Blackwell asked me to come and help you get ready if you're feeling up to it. He'd like to see you at the house at 12:30. He said to tell you very specifically that you can say no. He said to tell you you can say no to anything he asks you for the rest of your life." Kate stared at her. "He said that. He said it twice, miss. He wanted me to be sure." Kate looked down at her hands. The good one, the one in the cloud, the world she had woken up into, was not the world she had gone to sleep in. She knew that. She had known it the moment she heard the door unlock. "What time is it now?" she said. 11:19, miss. There is no rush. The car can wait. The car will wait however long you need it to wait." Kate looked up. "Marisol," she said, "I have to ask you something." "Yes, miss." "Last night, the party. Did anything happen after I left?" Marisol set the paper bag down very carefully as if it might break. She folded her hands in front of her apron. She did not sit. She did not move closer to the bed. She just stood there in the middle of the bedroom, and she chose her words the way a woman chooses stones to cross a river. "Miss Bennett," she said, "I have worked in that house for 26 years. I worked there when Mr. Blackwell was a little boy. I worked there when his father was alive. I have learned in 26 years that there are some questions a person should not ask if she does not want to live with the answer for the rest of her life." Kate held her eyes. "I'm asking anyway." Marisol was quiet for a long moment. "Then I will tell you only this, miss. The young man who hurt you last night will never hurt anyone again. Neither will the men who watched him do it. Neither will the men who laughed about it afterward in the upstairs bar at the plaza. None of them will hurt anyone again. Not you, not the next girl, not anyone's daughter, not anyone's sister, not ever. That is what I know. That is all I will say. The rest, miss, you will have to ask him yourself." Kate's eyes filled. She did not let them spill over. "How many?" she whispered. Marisol did not answer. "Marisol, how many?" 15, miss." The number landed in the room like a stone dropped into still water. Kate did not breathe for a long moment. She did not know what she had expected. 3, maybe 5. Not 15. 15 was a number that meant Damon Blackwell had not stopped at the men in the library. He had not stopped at the men in the hallway. He had reached into every corner of the room where the laughter had been, and he had pulled out every man whose laughter had touched her, and he had taken them all. "Marisol." "Yes, miss." Am I supposed to be all right with this?" Marisol crossed the room. She sat on the edge of the bed. She did something then that no woman had done for Kate in 26 years. She reached out very slowly and she placed her warm, dry hand over Kate's good one. She did not squeeze. She just rested her hand there, the way a mother rests a hand on a feverish child. "Miss," she said, Listen to me, I do not know what you are supposed to be. I am not a priest. I am not a judge. I am a woman who has cleaned blood out of a hallway carpet at 4 in the morning more times than I can count, and I am telling you this. Last night a man broke your arm. Last night he was going to do worse. Last night 14 other men knew it was happening and did nothing or laughed or asked to go next. Today none of those men exist. Today, the next girl who walks into that party, and there is always a next girl miss, the next girl is safe from those particular men. You do not have to be glad about that. You do not have to be sorry about it either. You only have to drink your coffee. You only have to put on the dress in that suitcase. You only have to decide if you want to get into the car. Kate looked at her. And if I don't get into the car, then the car goes home empty, miss, and nobody comes back to ask why. And your mother's bills are still paid, and your job is still yours, and the man in the hallway outside this door is still going to follow you to work every day for the rest of your life, whether you ever speak to Mr. Blackwell again or not. There's a man outside. His name is Renzo, miss. He has been there since 2 in the morning. He has not slept. Mr. Blackwell put him there. Mr. Blackwell will keep someone there for the rest of your life if you want, and he will take the man away if I don't. That is the kind of man Mr. Blackwell is. He gives, he does not take. He waits. Kate sat with that for a long time. She thought about her mother in the hospital. She thought about the $1,100 in her checking account. She thought about Preston Caldwell's face 2 inches from hers and the smell of his cologne and the way he had laughed. She thought about Damon Blackwell crouching in front of her so his face was level with hers and not touching her, not once, not even when she was crying. Marisol, yes, miss. Is he a good man? Marisol smiled. It was a small smile and a sad one, and it was the truest thing Kate had seen on a human face in a long time. Miss Bennett, she said, Mr. Blackwell is not a good man. Mr. Blackwell has never been a good man, and Mr. Blackwell will never be a good man, and Mr. Blackwell would be the first one to tell you so. But Mr. Blackwell is a man who, when he loves you, will burn down the whole world before he lets it touch you. And I have watched that man for 34 years, and I have never not once seen him look at a woman the way he looked at you last night when he came down those stairs. Not once, miss. So you will have to decide for yourself which one of those things matters more to you. Kate sat with that too. Then she said very quietly, help me with the dress. The car arrived at 12:15. Renzo, the man in the hallway, was a quiet, broad-shouldered man in his 40s who stood up when Kate walked out of her apartment and inclined his head and said, Miss Bennett. He took her good arm at the elbow with the same wedding usher politeness Joaquin had used the night before. He walked her down 3 flights of stairs. He held the door of the building open. He held the door of the SUV open. He helped her in the way you help a woman in a wheelchair, careful not to bump the cast. Mr. Blackwell apologizes for sending a car instead of coming himself, he said. He has been on the phone since 6 this morning. He'll meet you in the East Garden. Thank you, Renzo. Miss, were you really outside my door all night? Yes, miss. Thank you. It was not a difficulty, miss. I was glad to be there. She did not know what to say to that. She looked out the tinted window. The car pulled away. The drive took 22 minutes. Kate did not speak. Renzo did not speak. The radio was off. At 12:35, exactly the SUV pulled through the wrought iron gates of the Blackwell estate, past the long curve of the front drive, and around the side of the house she had only ever entered through the kitchen. The East Garden was on the far side of the property. Renzo helped her out of the car. He walked her down a stone path through a row of hedges. At the end of the path was a small iron table set for 2. There was a white linen cloth. There was a teapot. There were 2 cups. There was a small plate of pastries from the same bakery Marisol had gone to that morning. Damon Blackwell was standing beside the table in a dark gray sweater and dark trousers, with his hands clasped behind his back. He was not looking at the gate. He was looking at the ground. He looked, Kate thought, like a man who had not slept. He looked up when he heard her steps. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then he came forward slowly, the way you come toward a deer in a clearing, and he stopped 3 feet from her. Kate, Damon. He searched her face. How was the arm? Hurts. The doctor said it would. He said it set cleanly. Good. Damon. Sit down, please, before we say anything else. Sit down. You shouldn't be standing. She sat. He sat across from her. He poured her tea without asking how she took it. 2 sugars, a splash of cream, exactly the way she took it. She did not ask how he knew. She wrapped her good hand around the cup. The warmth came up through the porcelain and into her palm. It was the first warm thing she had felt in 12 hours. Damen, she said, Marisol told me the number. He did not look surprised. He set down his own cup. He folded his hands on the table. He looked at her directly the way he had looked at her in the storage room. I asked her to. You asked her to tell me. I asked her to answer if you asked. I did not want to be the one to say it. I did not want you to feel that I was performing it for you. The number is not for you to be grateful for Kate. The number is for you to know, so that you can decide what you want to do with the rest of your life knowing it. She looked down at her tea. 15 men, she said, 15 men. Were they all? Every one of them touched what happened to you, Kate. Every one. The 3 in the library, the 4 in the hallway who watched, the 5 in the upstairs bar at the plaza who knew where Preston had gone and made jokes about it while it was happening, 3 more at the country club out in Westchester who had done it before with him to other women. None of them were innocent. None of them were unlucky. None of them were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They were exactly where they were because of exactly who they were. Other women. 9 that we know of, maybe more. We're still going through what he told us. There were 9 women, Kate. Some of them were 16 years old. One of them is dead. She killed herself in 2021. Her family was told it was unrelated. It was not unrelated. Kate's good hand began to shake. She set the teacup down before she dropped it. Damon. Yes. Why are you telling me this? He was quiet for a long moment. Because you asked me last night if you should feel guilty for not regretting what was going to happen. I did not answer you then. I am answering you now. The answer is no, Kate. You should not feel guilty. You should not feel anything. What happened last night was going to happen to someone eventually. It happened to you, and then it stopped happening. To you and to every woman who would have come after you for the rest of his life. That is the only good thing about last night. The rest of it is something I will carry, not you, me. She was crying. She did not know when she had started. Damon. Yes. I should be afraid of you. Yes. I'm not. I know. I don't understand why I'm not. He looked at her for a long time. Kate, he said, may I tell you something my father told me when I was 11 years old? Yes. He said that someday I would meet a woman who would make me forget every rule he had taught me. And he said that on the day I met her, I should remember that every rule he had taught me was to keep her alive. She held her breath. I thought it was nonsense, he said. I thought it was the kind of thing fathers say to sons because they don't know how to say what they mean. I am 34 years old. I have not thought about that conversation in 23 years. I thought about it last night, at 3 in the morning, at the desk that used to be his. Damon, I am not saying anything to you, Kate. I am not asking anything from you. I am telling you why when you walked into that storage room last night with your arm broken, my hands stopped working for a full second before I could get them under control. I am telling you why 15 men are gone today and not 3. I am telling you why there is a man named Renzo who is going to be outside your apartment every night for as long as you live, whether you ever see me again or not. I am telling you because you asked me why you are not afraid. The answer is that some part of you, Kate Bennett, knows what some part of me has known since last night. And we are going to have to figure out, you and I, what to do about that. But not today. She could not speak. He picked up his own cup. He took a sip of tea. He set it back down. His hand, she saw, was perfectly steady now. Today, he said, you are going to drink your tea. You are going to eat one of these pastries because Marisol will be heartbroken if you don't. And then Renzo is going to drive you to St. Vincent's. Your mother is in a private room as of this morning. The bill for the rest of her treatment, however long it takes, is paid. Her doctor's name is Patel. He is the best in the city. He is expecting you at 2. Kate was openly weeping now. She did not try to hide it. She did not try to stop it. She just sat at a small iron table on the east lawn of the Blackwell estate with a cast on her right arm and a teacup in her left hand, and she let 26 years of holding it in come out of her at once. Damon did not move. He did not touch her. He did not speak. He just sat across from her and let her cry the way a man sits on a porch and lets a storm pass. When she could breathe again, she lifted her face. Her makeup was gone. Her eyes were swollen. She looked at him. Damon? Yes. Thank you. He shook his head once. Not for that, Kate. Never for that. For my mother, then. He almost smiled. For your mother, you may thank me as much as you like. She laughed. It came out wet and broken and almost Esau, but it was a laugh, and it was the first laugh she had laughed in 9 days. And Damon Blackwell, the ruthless mafia heir, the man whose name made grown men go quiet at parties, watched her laugh, and something behind his eyes, the same something she had seen for 1 second in the storage room when she had told him, no, he didn't do anything else, moved again. He picked up the plate of pastries. Eat, he said. Marisol is watching from the kitchen window. I can feel it. Kate took a pastry. She ate it with one hand at a small iron table on the east lawn of a house that she had until last night only entered through the service door. Across the table, a man who had ordered the deaths of 15 people before sunrise drank his tea and watched her eat and did not say another word and did not need to. Renzo drove her to St. Vincent's at 1:45. He did not speak the whole way. He had stopped trying to make small talk after the first attempt that morning when Kate had looked out the window and not answered him. He understood the way men in his profession learn to understand that some silences are not rude. Some silences are a woman trying to hold herself together with both hands. She held the bakery bag in her lap. Damon had wrapped 2 more pastries in a napkin and put them in a paper sack and pressed it into her good hand at the end of tea. For your mother, he had said. She'll like the almond one. Kate had not asked him how he knew her mother liked almond. She was not asking him how he knew anything anymore. The hospital lobby was the same hospital lobby she had walked through every Tuesday and Friday for the last 14 months. The same fluorescent lights, the same old man in the wheelchair by the window, the one who waved at everyone whether he knew them or not. Kate waved at him with her good hand, and he waved back, and for one strange moment, she felt the old version of herself try to put itself back on like a coat that no longer fit. The old Kate took the elevator to the 4th floor. The old Kate walked down the long hallway to room 411. The old Kate paused at the door to fix her face the way she always fixed her face before walking in, because her mother was dying and her mother was not going to die looking at a daughter who was crying. Then the old Kate opened the door. Her mother was not in room 411. The bed was empty. The IV stand was gone. The little machine that beeped the one Kate had grown to hate was unplugged and pushed against the wall. Kate's stomach dropped through the floor. Mom. A nurse appeared at her elbow. Kate didn't recognize her. New face, young, kind eyes. Are you Kate Bennett? Where is my mother? Where is... She's been moved, sweetheart. She's been moved upstairs. 8th floor, the Whitfield wing. Dr. Patel had her transferred this morning. The what wing? The Whitfield wing on private rooms. It's a beautiful unit. Top of the building. You take the elevator on the right all the way up, and there's a desk when you get off. They're expecting you. Kate stared at her. The Whitfield wing was the wing that congressmen went to die in. The wing where rooms cost $4,000 a night. The wing Kate had walked past exactly once on the day she had been touring the hospital with a social worker who was trying to figure out how on earth they were going to keep her mother alive on Medicaid. She thanked the nurse. She walked back to the elevator. She pressed the button for 8. The elevator went up. The doors opened. She had stepped into a different country. A woman behind a wooden reception desk smiled at her without looking at the cast and said, Miss Bennett, welcome. Your mother is in suite 806. Dr. Patel is finishing rounds and will be with you in 15 minutes. May I bring you anything? Coffee, water? We have a kitchen. No, thank you. 806. Right down the hall, miss. Kate walked down the hall. The door to suite 806 was open. Her mother, who had been gray-faced and shrinking on the 4th floor for the last 6 months. Her mother, who had stopped recognizing visitors on bad days. Her mother, who Kate had begun to grieve already in small daily pieces. Her mother was sitting up in a real bed in a clean nightgown that Kate had not bought her drinking from a real mug, looking out a window at a real view of the river. She turned her head when Kate walked in. Her eyes were clear. For the first time in 8 weeks, her eyes were clear. Itty, she said. Kate dropped the bakery bag. She crossed the room in 3 steps. She knelt by the bed. She put her good arm around her mother's neck, and she pressed her face into her mother's shoulder, and her mother, her tiny mother, 86 pounds, who had not been able to lift her own head 2 weeks ago. Her mother slowly, carefully brought her hand up and laid it on the back of Kate's head. "Oh, baby," her mother said. "Oh, my baby, what did you do?" Kate could not answer. Her mother stroked her hair the way her mother had stroked her hair when she was 11 years old and brushing it before school. "Dr. Patel came in this morning," her mother whispered into Kate's hair. "He sat down. He held my hand, Katie. He looked at me. He told me there was a new treatment. He told me a donor had paid for it. He told me there was no name on the donation. He told me a man had called him at 5 in the morning and asked him to take my case personally. Dr. Patel doesn't take cases personally, baby. Dr. Patel is the head of oncology for the entire system. He took mine." Kate was sobbing. She could not stop. "Katie, look at me. Stop crying and look at me, baby." Kate lifted her face. Her mother looked at her. Really looked at her the way her mother had not been able to look at her for almost a year. And her mother saw the cast on her arm, and her mother saw the bruise on her cheek that Kate had tried to cover with foundation. And her mother saw somewhere underneath all of that the new thing in her daughter's eyes that had not been there yesterday. "Katie," her mother said, "who is he, eh?" Kate opened her mouth. She closed it. She did not know how to answer. "Mom." "Katie." Her mother's hand was on her cheek now. The hand was so light, so light. "Katie, you listen to your mother. I have been dying for 14 months. I have made my peace with it. I made it 3 months ago, and then this morning a man I have never met paid a stranger to bring me back. And my daughter walks in with a broken arm and a face like she has seen something she cannot tell me about. So I am asking you, baby, I am asking you the only way I know how. Who is he? And are you safe?" Kate looked at her mother for a long time. She thought about lying. She thought about saying no, one mom, just an old friend, just somebody who wanted to help. But her mother had not raised a liar. "His name is Damon Blackwell," Kate said. "He's the man I work for. Something happened last night, Mom. Something bad. And he found me, and he took care of it, and he took care of me, and he took care of you, and I don't know what he is, Mom. I don't know what he wants. I don't know what I'm supposed to do." Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Then her mother said something that Kate did not expect. "Blackwell," she said. "Blackwell? Kate, is he, that family?" Kate looked at her. "You know about that family?" Her mother smiled. It was a small smile and a tired one, and there was something in it Kate had never seen on her mother's face before. "Baby," her mother said, "your grandmother, my mother, worked in a laundry in this city for 41 years. She washed sheets for those people. Old Mr. Blackwell, the grandfather. She washed his sheets every Wednesday for 30 years. He paid her double. He paid for my school clothes when my father drank up the rent money. He did not have to. He did it. And when my mother got sick the year before she died, he paid for her funeral. Cash. In an envelope. He came to the service himself, Katie. He stood in the back. He did not stay for the meal. He just stood in the back in his black hat, and when my father tried to thank him, he tipped his hat and he walked away. That's what I know about that family, baby. They do not say nice things. They do nice things. There is a difference. There is a very big difference." Kate stared at her. "You never told me that." "You never needed to know it." "Mom, baby, listen to me. I do not have a lot of time left. Dr. Patel is a good man and a smart man, and he is going to do everything he can, but I am 64 years old, and I have been sick for a long time, and we are realistic women in this family. I do not know how long I have. I do not know if it will be a year. I do not know if it will be 3 months. But I do know this, Katie. I do not want to leave this earth worrying about you. I have worried about you every day for 26 years. Every single day. I worried about you in the 3rd grade when the boys teased you for your shoes. I worried about you in high school when you came home crying about that boy who didn't deserve you. I worried about you when you took that job at the diner with the manager who wouldn't keep his hands to himself. And I worried about you when you quit it. And I worried about you the day you took this job at that house, even though I could see you didn't want to tell me where you'd be working. I have worried about you for 26 years, baby. I am tired of worrying about you. I want to die knowing my daughter is not alone in this world." Kate was crying again. "Mom, Katie, you answer me. Are you safe with this man?" Kate thought about it. She thought about Damon Blackwell crouching in front of her and not touching her. She thought about the way he had said, you can say no for the rest of your life. She thought about Marisol's hand on hers and the words, when he loves you, he will burn down the whole world before he lets it touch you. She thought about the man named Renzo who had not slept all night in her hallway. She thought about the way Damon's hands had shaken at his father's desk, where she had not been there to see them shake, but where she somehow knew that they had. Yes, Kate said. Yes, Mom, I'm safe. Are you sure? I'm sure. Her mother nodded once. Then her mother said very quietly, then you bring him here, Katie. You bring him here so I can look him in the eye. And if he does not blink when I look at him, then I will go in peace. The door opened behind her. Kate turned. Damon Blackwell was standing in the doorway. He was holding a small bouquet of yellow roses. He had not knocked. He had been standing there, Kate realized, for some part of that conversation. Maybe all of it. He did not look at Kate. He looked at her mother. He held her mother's eyes from the doorway. Mrs. Bennett, he said, forgive me. The nurse said it was all right to come in. I can wait in the hall. Her mother studied him. She studied him the way a woman studies a man she is about to give her only daughter to. She studied him without blinking. She studied him for what felt to Kate like an entire minute. Damon did not move. He did not look away. He stood in the doorway with a small bouquet of yellow roses in his hand, and he let an old woman in a hospital bed take the full measure of his soul. He did not blink. Her mother smiled. It was a slow smile and a tired one, and something in it broke Kate's heart. Come in, Mr. Blackwell, her mother said. Come where I can see you better. My daughter says your name is Damon. Is that right? Yes, ma'am. Damon, come here. Sit. Put those flowers on the table. The nurse will find a vase. Did you know yellow was my favorite? Your daughter mentioned it once, ma'am, in passing. Last spring, she said her mother always wore yellow on Easter. Kate had no memory of saying it. None. She watched Damon Blackwell, the man who had ordered the deaths of 15 people the night before, walk into her mother's hospital room and pull a chair up to her mother's bedside and sit down with the careful, slow grace of a man who knew how to sit beside a sick woman because he had sat beside one before. Her mother held out a small, thin hand. Damon took it in both of his. Mr. Blackwell? Damon, please. Damon, I want to thank you for what you did for me this morning. Mrs. Bennett, no, you let me say it. I am 64 years old, and I have never, not once in my life, had a stranger do something for me without wanting something back. So I want to say thank you, and I want to look you in the face when I say it. Thank you, Damon Blackwell. Thank you for the doctor. Thank you for the room. Thank you for the time. He bowed his head. You are welcome, ma'am. And now I want to ask you something. Yes, ma'am. My daughter is not a fool. My daughter has not had an easy life. My daughter has lived 26 years with one foot in a hole waiting to fall in. I do not know what your intentions are. I do not need to know your business. I have lived long enough to know that some questions a mother does not ask. But I am going to ask you one question. Damon, and I am going to know by your face whether you are lying to me. Are you ready? Yes, ma'am. Are you going to break my daughter's heart? Damon Blackwell did not answer right away. He did not answer the way a man answers who has been asked an easy question. He held her mother's hand in both of his hands, and he looked down at it for a long moment, and then he looked up, and he held her mother's eyes the way he had held them in the doorway. Mrs. Bennett, he said, I cannot promise you that I will not. I cannot promise you that I will not die before I can keep her. I cannot promise you that the world I come from will not someday take something from her that I cannot give back. I am not going to lie to you on her mother's deathbed about who I am or what my life looks like. But I can promise you this. I will spend every day I have left on this earth making sure that the only thing that ever breaks Kate's heart, again, is something that happens to me, not something I do to her. I cannot offer you better than that, ma'am. I would be lying if I tried. Kate's mother held his eyes for a long moment. Then her mother nodded. That is the right answer, Damon. Ma'am, that is the right answer because it is the true one. A man who promises me he will never break my daughter's heart is a man who is already lying to me. A man who promises me he will try is a man I can trust. You can let go of my hand now. He did not. Mr. Blackwell. Yes, ma'am. You can let go of my hand now. In a moment, ma'am, there's something else I need to say. He turned slightly. He looked at Kate. He looked at Kate the way he had looked at her in the storage room last night, when she had said, "Yes, I trust you. God help me." He looked at her the way he had looked at her across the iron table on the east lawn that morning. He looked at her like a man who had spent 34 years of his life not knowing what he was looking for and who had in the last 16 hours found it. "Kate, yes. I'm going to ask you something now, in front of your mother, because she deserves to hear it, and because I do not want there to be a single moment in your life from this point forward where you wonder whether I have asked it. Do you understand?" She nodded. She could not speak. "I am asking you to let me take care of you, not as your boss, not as the man who paid your mother's bills, as something else. I do not have a word for it yet that I'm willing to say out loud in front of your mother and you and God. But I am asking you, Kate. I am asking the way a man is supposed to ask. And you can say no. You can say no today. You can say no tomorrow. You can say no in a year. The doctor stays. The room stays. Renzo stays. Your job stays. Nothing I have given you was given on a condition. But I am asking, and I would like you to answer." Kate looked at her mother. Her mother was watching her. Her mother's eyes were wet. Her mother's eyes were also clear. Her mother nodded very slightly, just once. Kate looked back at Damon Blackwell. "Yes," she said. "Yes, Damon, I will let you take care of me." Her mother let out a long, slow breath. "Good," her mother said. "Good. Now both of you stop crying in front of me. I am the one with cancer, and I am not crying. Mr. Blackwell, get my daughter a tissue. There are some on the windowsill. And then you go down to the cafeteria and you bring up 3 coffees because Dr. Patel will be here in 10 minutes and I want him to meet you properly. And Katie, you sit down, sit on this bed, hold my hand. We are going to be all right, baby. We are going to be all right." Damon stood. He walked to the windowsill. He brought back the box of tissues. He set it on the bed beside Kate. His fingers brushed the top of her good hand for 1/2 of a second, the first time he had touched her since this had all begun. He left to get the coffee. In the silence after the door closed, Kate's mother turned her head on the pillow and looked at her daughter. "Katie?" "Yes, Mom." "Whatever happened last night?" "Yes." "You do not tell me. You do not ever tell me. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mom." "Good." Her mother closed her eyes. She did not open them again until Damon came back with the coffee. Dr. Patel arrived at 2:15. He was a small, soft-spoken man in his 50s with kind eyes and a stethoscope around his neck. And when he walked into suite 806 and saw Damon Blackwell sitting at the bedside, holding a paper coffee cup, he stopped in the doorway for 1/2 a second, and then he kept walking. He did not bow. He did not flinch. He shook Damon's hand once firmly, and then he turned to Kate's mother as if Damon Blackwell were not in the room at all. "Mrs. Bennett, I have your numbers from this morning. I have good news, not big news. Good news. May I sit down?" "Please, doctor." He sat. He talked for 15 minutes in a quiet, careful voice about white blood cell counts and a new immunotherapy and a clinical trial that had just opened a slot for a 64th patient. He said the words, "We are going to fight this," in a way that did not sound like a slogan, and Kate watched her mother's face slowly change in the way a face changes when a person who has stopped hoping is given permission by a man with a stethoscope to begin hoping again. When he stood to leave, he looked at Kate for the first time. "Miss Bennett, your arm, may I?" "It's set, doctor. The doctor last night. Dr. Reyes, I know him. He is excellent. May I?" She let him look. He turned her hand gently in his own. He pressed 2 fingertips against her wrist. He nodded. "It will heal cleanly. You will not lose any function. You will be sore for 6 weeks. You will have full range of motion by Christmas. I am sorry this happened to you." She did not know what to say. "Thank you, doctor." "Mr. Blackwell." "Doctor, you will let me know if anything changes. With either of them." "You'll be the first call, doctor." "Good." He left. In the silence after the door closed, Kate's mother let out a long, shuddering breath that was almost a laugh. "Katie, did you hear him?" "I heard him, Mom. He said fight. He said trial. He said Katie. He said Christmas." "I know, Mom. I have not heard a doctor say Christmas to me in a year." Kate kissed her mother's forehead. Her mother held her face in both hands for a long moment, the way her mother used to when she was small, and then her mother let her go. "Now, both of you out. I am going to take a nap, a real nap. The kind I take because I am tired and not because I am dying. Damon, you take my daughter home. You feed her. She has lost weight. I do not like it. Katie, you come back tomorrow morning. Bring me the almond pastry, the one in the bag your young man left on my windowsill before he came in pretending he had just brought it. I saw you, Damon. I saw you put it there. You are not as smooth as you think you are. Damon actually laughed. It was a small sound, surprised, and Kate realized she had never heard him laugh before in 11 months of working in his house. Yes, ma'am. Out. Both of you. They went. In the elevator, neither of them spoke. Kate stood with her good hand pressed flat against the wall. Damon stood beside her with his hands folded in front of him. The elevator descended. The doors opened in the lobby. He walked her out. The same SUV was at the curb with Renzo behind the wheel. Damon stopped on the sidewalk before he opened the door for her. Kate? Yes. Are you all right? No, she said, but I think I will be, eventually. Is that the right answer? It's the only honest one. Damon? Yes. Take me home, to my apartment, not to your house, not yet. I need to be in my own bed tonight. Is that all right? Of course. You're not angry. He looked at her for a long moment. Kate, I will never be angry with you for telling me what you need. Get in the car. She got in the car. He shut the door. He did not get in with her. He stepped back and tapped the roof twice with his knuckles, and Renzo pulled away from the curb. Kate watched him in the side mirror, standing on the sidewalk with his hands in his pockets until the SUV turned the corner and he was gone. That was Sunday, 3 weeks passed. In those 3 weeks, Kate Bennett's life rearranged itself around her without ever once asking her permission, and yet somehow in a way she could not quite explain to herself, never against her will. The arm healed. Dr. Reyes came to her apartment on Tuesdays and Fridays to check it. The cast came off in week 6. She had full range of motion by Thanksgiving, exactly as Dr. Patel had said. Her mother began the trial in week 2. By the end of week 3, her white cell count was up. By the end of week 4, she had gained 6 pounds. By the end of week 5, she walked the length of the hallway on the 8th floor on her own 2 feet holding Kate's hand. And when she reached the end, she turned and looked at her daughter and said, Katie, I think I'm going to live. Kate did not work the parties anymore. Not because Damon had asked her to stop, because she could not bring herself to walk back into that house yet, and Damon had understood without being told. Instead, he gave her a different job. He gave her his foundation. The Blackwell Family Foundation, a small, quiet thing that had existed for 60 years and given out a few $100,000 a year to causes nobody had ever heard of, run by a tired old lawyer named Mr. Halverson, who had been waiting 11 years for permission to retire. Damon offered Kate the job in the 2nd week. Fix it, he had said. Fix it however you want. Hire whoever you need. Spend whatever you need. The money is there. It has been there for 60 years. Nobody has ever cared enough to do anything with it. I am asking you to care. She had asked him why her. He had said, because the first thing I watched you do, the first day you worked in my house, was bring a glass of water to a maid who had been on her feet for 14 hours and was crying in the pantry. You did not know I was watching. You did it anyway. That is the only qualification the job requires, Kate. That is the only qualification I have ever cared about. She took the job. She made it her own. Within 6 weeks, the Blackwell Family Foundation had funded a free legal clinic for women who could not afford to file restraining orders. Within 3 months, it had funded 2 women's shelters in 2 boroughs. Within a year, there were 9 of them. Kate hired a young woman named Diana to run the legal clinic. Diana had been a public defender. Diana asked on her first day why the foundation was suddenly funding this kind of work. Kate had looked at her across the desk and said very simply, because no woman in this city should ever have to walk into a storage room alone again. Diana had not asked anything else. Kate and Damon took it slowly. He did not push. He did not press. He came to her apartment on Thursday evenings, and they ate dinner together at her small kitchen table, usually something Marisol had sent over because Damon, it turned out, could not cook. They talked. They did not always talk about anything important. He told her about his grandfather. He told her about the day his father had died when he was 19 in Naples. He told her slowly in pieces over the course of months about the world he had inherited. He did not pretty it up. He did not lie. He told her the parts he could tell her, and he told her plainly that there were parts he would never tell her because some things a wife should not have to carry. The first time he used the word wife in her kitchen, she froze with her fork halfway to her mouth. He had set down his own fork. He had looked at her steadily. I am not asking you tonight, Kate, he had said. I am telling you that someday I will, so that when I do, you will not be surprised, so that you will have had time to think about it. I do not believe in surprising women into the rest of their lives. She had not been able to answer. She had reached across the table and taken his hand instead. It was the first time she had ever initiated touch with him. He had looked down at her hand on his, and he had not moved, and after a moment he had turned his hand over and laced his fingers through hers, very carefully, the way you handle something that has been broken before. They had finished their dinner like that, eating one-handed. The first kiss came in week 11 on the front steps of her building after a Thursday dinner. It was November, the first cold wind of the year. She had stopped on the steps and turned to say goodnight, and he had looked at her, and she had looked at him, and there was a moment when neither of them moved. She had been the one to lean up. He had been the one to catch her face in both his hands. The kiss was not the kiss of a mafia heir and his maid. It was not the kiss of a powerful man and a frightened woman. It was the kiss of two people who had been walking toward each other since the night a girl with a broken arm had whispered a name in a storage room, and a man at his father's desk had felt his hand shake for the first time in 15 years. When they broke apart, his forehead came to rest against hers. Kate. Yes, I was not going to do that tonight. I know. I was going to wait until your arm was fully healed. Damon, my arm has been healed for 3 weeks. Has it? Yes, he laughed, a real laugh this time, the second laugh she had ever heard from him. Then I have wasted 3 weeks. You have not wasted anything, she said. You have given me 3 weeks I needed. He kissed her again. He did not come upstairs. He had never in 11 weeks come upstairs. He understood the way he had understood from the first night in the storage room that some things had to come from her. He walked her to the door of the building. He waited until she was inside. He stood on the sidewalk until the light came on in her window 3 flights up. Then he got in the car and went home. Senator Howard Caldwell never found his son. He hired private investigators. He pulled federal favors. He had 3 different agencies look into Preston's disappearance quietly, without ever using the word missing in public, because a presidential candidate cannot have a missing son. The trail went cold within a week. Within a month, it stopped existing. Within 6 months, the senator stopped looking because his investigators kept coming back with the same answer, which was no answer at all. And the senator was a man who had been in politics long enough to recognize the shape of an answer he was not meant to find. He grieved privately. He drank more. His wife left him in the spring. He did not run for president. In the 4th month of Katie's new life, an envelope arrived at her apartment with no return address. Inside was a list, 9 names, 9 addresses, 9 phone numbers. There was no note. She did not need a note. She sat at her kitchen table for a long time with the list in front of her. Then she picked up the phone and called Diana at the legal clinic, and she said, Diana, I need you to find these 9 women. I need you to find them quietly. I need you to offer them anything they need. Therapy, lawyers, money, new apartments, new cities, anything. The foundation is paying. You do not need to tell them where the list came from. You only need to tell them that someone knows what happened and that someone is sorry it took this long and that someone is trying to make it right. Diana found 7 of them within 6 weeks. The 8th was found 2 months after that in Oregon, where she had moved to start over. The 9th was the one who had killed herself in 2021. Diana found her parents instead. The foundation paid for the small headstone they had not been able to afford. The headstone said, "Beloved daughter, we believed you." Kate cried for an hour the day Diana sent her the photograph of it. Damon found her crying in her own kitchen that evening. He had let himself in with the keys she had given him in week 8. He sat down beside her. He read the email over her shoulder. He did not speak. He put his arm around her. She turned her face into his chest and she cried for a long time, and when she was done, she lifted her head and she looked at him. Damon, yes, I am ready. For what? For the question, the one you said you would ask someday. He looked at her for a long moment. He did not pretend not to understand. He never pretended with her. That was the thing she had come to love most about him in the end. In a life made of lies and quiet rooms and disappearances, The man she loved did not lie to her. Not once. Not ever. He stood up from the kitchen table. He walked to the front hall. He came back with his coat, and he reached into the inside pocket, and he took out a small velvet box that he had been carrying, Kate later learned, for 3 weeks. He did not get down on one knee in her kitchen. He was not that kind of man. He sat back down beside her at the table, and he opened the box, and inside was a ring that had belonged to his great-grandmother, the only Blackwell woman in 4 generations who had married for love and not for alliance. Kate Bennett. Yes. Will you marry me? Yes. You are not going to make me say a speech. No, Damon, I am not going to make you say a speech. Good. I was prepared to, but I would prefer not to. I know. He put the ring on her finger. It fit. Of course it fit. Marisol had measured Kate's hand in week 6 while pretending to admire her bracelet. He kissed her hand. He kissed her mouth. He stayed that night. For the first time, he stayed. They were married 4 months later in the small chapel on the Blackwell estate with 31 guests. Kate's mother walked her down the aisle. She had gained 20 pounds. She had her hair done. She wore yellow because her mother had told her on her own wedding day 40 years ago that a woman should always wear yellow at least once at her own daughter's wedding. Dr. Patel was there. Diana was there. Marisol cried through the entire ceremony. Renzo stood at the back of the chapel in a black suit with his hands folded in front of him, and when Kate walked past him on her father-in-law's arm, for Damon had asked, in the absence of Kate's father, if the old groundskeeper Tomas, who had known him since he was a boy, would stand in. Renzo bowed his head just once the way a man bows his head when something he has guarded for a long time is finally safe. Kate's mother lived to see her first grandchild. She held him in her arms in the same suite at St. Vincent's where Dr. Patel had once told her about a clinical trial. She named him with Kate's permission after her own father. She told him in a whisper that she was the luckiest grandmother in the world. She died 9 months later in her own bed, in her own apartment, with her daughter holding one hand and her grandson in his crib at the foot of the bed. Her last words were to Damon. She had asked him to come close. She had asked Kate to step outside for a moment, just a moment. She had held Damon's hand in both of her tiny hands, and she had whispered something to him that Kate would never know, and he would never tell her, and which Damon Blackwell would carry alone for the rest of his life. When Kate came back into the room, her mother was smiling. Her mother said, "Katie, I love you. I am not afraid." Then her mother closed her eyes. Damon Blackwell stayed by Kate's side for the next 3 days without sleeping. He held her when she cried. He fed her when she forgot to eat. He did not say a single useless thing. He did not tell her it will be all right. He did not tell her she's in a better place. He told her simply on the 3rd night, while she lay against his chest in the dark, "Kate, she got the years she wanted. She got the years she would not have had. You gave her that. You did that. Every minute of the last 2 years was yours." She wept then in a way she had not wept since the storage room. He held her until she slept. In the years that followed, Kate Bennett, Kate Blackwell, now built her foundation into the largest private network of women's shelters and legal clinics in the country. She never gave an interview. She never ran for office. She refused every honor she was offered. She did the work, and she went home at night to her husband and her son and eventually her daughter, and she lived a long, quiet life behind the high walls of an estate that for 3 generations before her had been a house of fear. Under her, it became something else. It became a house of safety. The men who had hurt her never came back. The senator's son never came back. The 14 others never came back. No one ever asked. No one ever found a body. No one ever filed a charge. The world simply quietly moved on without them, the way the world moves on without men who do not deserve to be remembered. And in the small leather notebook that Dr. Reyes had handed Damon Blackwell on the night of the gala, in Kate's shaking handwriting and the doctor's neater script, every word she had said in that storage room was preserved. Damon kept it in the locked drawer of his father's desk for the rest of his life. He never read it again. He did not need to. He had memorized every word the night he had received it. He had built the rest of his life around them. On the night Kate Blackwell turned 60, she stood on the same east lawn where her husband had once poured her tea with a broken arm and a cast, and she watched her grown son lift her granddaughter onto his shoulders, and she watched her grown daughter dance with her father, and she watched the house she had once entered through the service door fill with the laughter of children who would never know what it had cost to make their lives possible. Damon came up behind her. He put his arms around her waist. He rested his chin on top of her head the way he had every night for 34 years. Kate, yes. Are you happy? She thought about it. She thought about a girl with a broken arm in a storage room biting the inside of her cheek to keep from screaming. She thought about 15 men who had vanished from the earth in a single night, so that she and every woman after her could stand on a lawn at 60 years old and watch her granddaughter laugh. She turned in her husband's arms. She looked up into the face of the man everyone had once called a monster, and who had instead become the only true shelter she had ever known. Damon, she said, I am the happiest woman who has ever lived. He kissed her forehead. He did not answer. He did not need to. The night a Mafia Boss saw his maid hiding her broken arm, 15 men went missing by morning. And one woman who had spent 26 years learning to be invisible became the most loved woman in the world. That was the story. That was the whole story, and it was true.